Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for May 21st, 2019. We got about 5 minutes. Qs up 0.98, just shy of 1%, and SPY 0.86, also a little shy of 1% there on the SPY. Okay, so coming into today, we did maintain the bearish bias, looking for a little bit more retracement on the daily here before we give up on the bearish bias. And what we have now is an hourly sell setup here. Okay, hourly sell setup now. And so we're going to be bearish going into tomorrow until we take out today's high. Okay, so today's high, if we take that out, we will be neutral as you can be. Now, I think that's where we're going to end up, but I'm going to maintain the bearish bias until we get over today's high, because I think that's where we're going to end up, because the weekly here, we have a buy setup in the Qs, which is just a retracement, right, in the context of an uptrend. But on the daily, we have a sell setup here, right? This retraced and an inside of a recent downtrend. Okay, so we have time frame conflict. Weekly says higher, daily's saying lower. And so with that, we're probably gonna end up at a neutral point, which we will confirm because the bullish pattern that triggered failed, and then this bearish hourly sell setup is also gonna fail. So that's pretty common, because in order for a stock, or in this case the index, to maintain a sideways pattern, any attempts to go higher have to be met with an equal move in the other direction. So the fact that we're getting an hourly buy setup failure and now getting an hourly sell setup, I wouldn't be surprised if that hourly sell setup fails, but will remain bearish until it does, and then over today's high we will go to neutral. Okay, so going into tomorrow, bearish until we break over today's high on the Qs and the SPY. If we break over today's high, then we will be neutral, and kind of expecting sideways prices until we get some kind of resolution to this time frame conflict. Okay, weekly looking bullish, daily already triggered the daily sell setup. So we'll see which one wins out between these, and then go from there. Okay, so if that's the case, I expect that we're going to get some pretty slow and uneventful trading. If we go to this neutral bias, the market stops moving, and we just get less earnings reports. So that's when it's going to be most critical for us to really focus our ideas and pick on high quality stuff. Okay, so yesterday I talked a little bit about using the earnings list. And I got a question today asking if I read the earnings reports, okay? And I don't read the earnings reports. Only thing I do is I check to make sure that it in fact did report earnings, and that's about all that I care about, okay? And I think the worst thing that you can do is do half technical analysis and then half news. Like, if you're gonna use the earnings reports, then go ahead, read the whole thing, right? And then if you're going to focus on fundamentals, then focus on them. If you're going to focus on technicals, on price action, then focus on price action, okay? Because I think if you try to do half and half, you're just going to be kind of confused, okay? And I think you're going to be without any kind of bias, most likely. And I'm going to use this HD as an example, okay, which you can also go back and look at your own news flow to see what the headlines looked like. Okay, so just like based on this HD, for instance, okay, which once it reported, it moved up. So the headlines focused on the fact that this was an earnings beat, right? This was the close, and then it moved up, earnings beat. And then as it started to lose the gap and started to go down, now the headlines are saying the forecast is disappointing, that the HD outlook for the rest of the year was disappointing. So now we went from earnings beat, it's going up, to outcast is weak, we're going down. And then what do you think happened when this HD went actually back to positive. As soon as we opened here, right? We opened down here and then rallied. What do you think? The headlines flip-flopped again. Now, all of a sudden, earnings beat looks good because of cost-cutting measures. So it's the kind of thing that if you're going to do halfway in, you're just going to be left confused, or what would be the worst would be always chasing. So you're always getting in at the end of the move as it says cost-cutting measures are good, or, selling at, based on the bad news, right, when they're saying that the outlook is weak. Okay, so we talked about yesterday kind of what, to use, the earnings list. And I just want to see what, if they report it, and then from there, I'm focusing on the pattern. The reason I want to confirm that they reported is because I want to make sure that people are paying attention, that something eventful happened, so we can get some nice continuous moves, right? And I think if the market goes neutral, that we'll get a lot more kind of sideways days like we got today. Like that's kind of, lining up with what I'm thinking will happen, which is this hourly will fail as far as trying to go lower. And so we didn't really go anywhere, and no kind of nice trend. We spent time below the 20 MA, above, below, above, back below. So you can see that really was not able to kind of trend nicely here on the Qs. Okay, but if we come across something like the EV, and this was on the earnings list, base it and breakout, and another base and breakout closing at the highs, right? That's the stuff we want to pick on. Or this DY, right? DY, again, very, very strong, right? And then multiple breakouts close at the highs. These were both on the earnings list. And on any other day, I'm not really watching these, but I know that they reported, and I know that the market was bullish on the report. I don't know what aspect of it, of their fundamentals, of their balance sheet that the market liked, but the participants here and the footprint of money is saying we want to go long, and that demand is overwhelming the supply. Right now, if we kind of just focus on what the HD did today, that the gap down got bought, then that will tell me also more bullish than bearish, right? This is the same daily kind of gap bully that we've seen last week on the QT&T, and the BEST here, right? Gap up got sold. That's the reversal of the gap, right? That in this one, you could probably trace the same kind of news events that there was bullish on the report initially, and then as it started to sell, that people start to focus on what the reason is. And you'll see that also when talking about the market in general. As we start to get kind of more sideways stuff, smaller, narrow range days, when the market is down, market's concerned about the tariffs, and then if the market goes positive, market's not as concerned about the tariffs. And that kind of stuff is really useless in terms of actually making money in the market. I guess it helps for the financial news to explain what's going on and make it relatable, but we're trying to predict, trying to speculate on what happens next, right? So our perspective is not about explaining what has happened. Okay, so I just want to make that clear because I think there's a lot of potential for confusion and bad plays if you're constantly chasing some of these headlines. Okay, so we talked yesterday about kind of idea generation, looking at things that other people are focusing on or that the market tells you traders are focusing on. Look at the big volume that came in on the DY, same with the EV. Remember yesterday we traded the PDD that was off of the earnings list yesterday for lower, right? And you can see that we're going after these on the day where they are in focus, okay? And I think that is going to be as important as it is during any time of the year, because we're about to move most likely into a more sideways market and without a lot of gaps. Okay, so without a lot of gaps creating the shock value, we really have to stay nice and focused. Okay, All right, so I just wanted to reiterate that and also kind of elaborate because I got this question today and I thought that, you know, stuff like this HD, you're going to see this every day. Stuff where it goes one way and then, you know, the first everybody or the news headlines are all bearish. And as soon as it flips, all of a sudden all the news headlines are more bullish. And so, you know, that kind of stuff is going to not allow you to get in at a place where you can actually anticipate the move. Okay, so hopefully that clarifies some things. I understand that, you know, in general, we want to have all the information and we want to make as best of a educated trade that we can. But I just think that you kind of have to pick to one way or the other. Either go all fundamental or mostly fundamental or all technical, right? Majority technical. I think trying to split it down the middle, half and half, read some of the headlines, and then still try to pick the patterns is going to lead to some pretty difficult and frustrating trading. Okay? All right. So hope you did well today. If not, we'll be back at it tomorrow, and we'll see what the market brings us. All right? Have a good evening.